Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one's a really good one. It's with Lance Eaker from Eaker Barbecue in Fredericksburg, Texas. I've wanted to talk to him for a while, so this is really cool. But I realized, like 4 in the morning a couple nights ago, that I never really explained what these shows are all about. And potentially, if this is your first one that you're listening to, I interview pit masters, pit builders, photographers, especially in the barbecue world, writers, especially in the barbecue world, barbecue joint owners, knife makers, especially in the barbecue world. So it's all barbecue, joint, or meat related, but there's a gamut. I've talked to a lot of people. So if this is your first one or maybe your second one, there's an entire archive of really cool people, really interesting, amazing people, people that you get to know through these interviews. So hopefully, if you are interested in learning more about the people, check my archive, subscribe, that way you don't miss out. But this one with Lance is awesome. I've always wanted to talk to him. He and his wife Boo have their restaurant in Fredericksburg. They just got another Centex 1,000 gallon smoker, so they have two pits, two Centex pits. As many of you know, Lance and Boo were operating out of Houston for the longest time, and they made the move to Fredericksburg. So we get into their backstory, how they met, where they met, and their journeys both weren't in barbecue, which a lot of people's aren't. What it's really like doing the pop-ups and then getting a food truck, and he explains how much the food truck costs, and a lot of people probably don't know that stuff, and he explains all those details about what it's like to really hustle. And they were popping up everywhere. Abe Delgado and I had a running list for a while prior to the pandemic of pop-ups in Texas, and every week Eaker Barbecue was all over the place, and they were working really hard, and then COVID hit, and that's when things shifted and things changed, and then they eventually moved to Fredericksburg and have their place there. And I'll put a map to the location below. You're gonna love Lance. He's super cool, so nice, so interesting, engaging, and they do also add a Korean element to their menu, which is awesome. And I love that fusion, and a lot of Korean flavors just marry perfectly with barbecue. So you're going to want to visit them. I'll put a link to their menu too below. But I can't thank Lance enough for taking the time, sharing their story, sharing it in detail, sharing all about the restaurant now. And I know you guys are going to enjoy this. I have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com too, with links and lists and crazy stuff. I go a little nuts about compiling things and keeping things organized to try to be a good tool for people. So hopefully you could find something that's helpful for you. But at the end, stay safe, visit your local barbecue joint, and thank you so much for listening. And also, I don't think a lot of people know about Fredericksburg, and that might be fun to talk about too.
It is kind of fun to talk about because we hadn't been here in 16 years at this point. We had kind of our journey ended up here as we, through COVID with a food truck, we were doing all these big events and, Carbach and the Texans and all these things. And then COVID occurred. And then next thing you know, we're in a neighborhood serving 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. So obviously revenue took a massive hit.
Yeah.
And we went on vacation, and New Braunfels Smokehouse had just shut down. So that was our first thought of moving. Conversation with Chris Reed, he mentioned, maybe if you're looking in the Hill Country area, maybe consider Fredericksburg. And we thought he was crazy.
Yeah, no, it does sound like it does sound kind of crazy when you think about it, but it does make all the sense actually.
It does now. So, a town of 12,000 people, 5 existing barbecue joints already here. And as we found out, now 2 more coming.
Are there 2 more coming? I didn't know that.
There's 2 more coming. Yeah, Salt Lake is looking. I think they're opening out in Lukenbach, so about 20 minutes away. And then there's a new hotel development that is going to put it looks to be kind of a small one. I'm not sure what their focus is going to be, but it's going to be barbecue of some sort,
like a concept of some sort.
I don't know if it's going to be like a high-end kind of a Loro concept or if it's going to be traditional, but it's part of a high-end hotel, like a 5-star hotel development.
Wow. So, that's not bad.
No, I mean, we like that competition. We knew about Salt Lake coming in before we made the move. But, when he mentioned that to us, we looked it up, 12,000 people. That we hadn't been here in 15 years. And when we were here last, it was a sleepy little small tourist town where, you come and you do your antiquing. There was maybe 2 wineries here. But as we did more research, we realized there's, over 120 wineries and tasting rooms here, and over 1,200 B&Bs on top of the hotels that are here. This town functions as a town of maybe 150, 200,000.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I think 2 million visitors a year. That's last I heard.
That-
And those wineries and tasting rooms just over the last year and a half have increased, as well as the B&B. So it's a booming little town, and COVID definitely, it had, we went back and looked at the sales tax growth over the last 10 years, and it's always had double digits, right at 10-12% growth. And even during COVID, they had a massive drop in March, but they ended the year with a small percentage growth in revenue.
Isn't that amazing?
It's got to be one of the only towns in the state that has done this. But part of it is that, a lot of people, decided that, they're working at home now, and their kids are working remote, or at least they were last year.
Yeah.
And then, they wanted to get out, and they didn't want to hop in a plane. So this seemed to be the good destination. So property values have almost doubled in the year and a half we've been here. And I'm not exaggerating.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not at all.
The median house, when we first started looking here we started looking in September of last year, and I guess the year before, so about a year to 4 months or so. Yeah. The median house was around 350. I'm hearing we're not seeing anything listed under 600,000 now.
Isn't that crazy? And so for people that might not know, because we just jumped into this, and this is perfect. This is great. It's considered, no, it's perfect. It's considered the Texas Hill Country, and it is essentially the wine area. There's other places around Texas that people grow grapes for wine, but this has become the destination area. And is it southwest, or is it just west? It's like a little bit south, right, of Austin.
Of Austin, it's a little southwest of Austin. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, there's a lot of growing areas in Fredericksburg. It's okay for growing grapes, but you'll find that Lubbock, outside of Lubbock area, you'll find better grape growing. But this is more of it's in a valley right in the middle of the hill country. It's a nice historic little town. So there's some grape growing here, but there's definitely a lot of wine produced using grapes here, grapes out of the Lubbock,
guys using stuff from outside. Okay.
Right. And even California. And then there's a place here that actually has all their wine developed in Italy and brought into their tasting room.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't realize that a lot of winemakers don't grow the grapes themselves. Right. It's just part of the process. Wow.
Right.
So are there over 100 tasting rooms there?
I'm guessing there's probably about 140, 150 tasting rooms / wineries. Actually vineyards, and combination of those. So
have you done any type of connection with that at all? Is that something that you guys are ever going to do? Because I know wine and barbecue works.
It does. We haven't dived into it so far yet. Yeah. We have made some connections. We have some owners of wineries that frequent the restaurant, and as well as tasting rooms. We have some ideas in the future to where we will do some what I call basically dinners, like a dinner club, like once a month. Cool. We'll bring in chefs and bring in some wineries to pair and do some fun things like that. We're looking at adding wine to the menu here in the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to open our back area, do some evening stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
Probably end of February, early March.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a lot. Aren't there distilleries out there too, or am I thinking of a different?
There's a couple. Allstat is a really big distillery out there. It's all the equipment's from Germany. In fact, all the brewers, from my understanding, are from Germany. At least the master brewer and the on-site cool. brewer. So they went kind of crazy with it. It's beautiful facility. Fredericksburg Brewing, it's been here forever. It's a small brewery that serves the beer inside within their restaurant space, and then a couple others, and a few distilleries coming in from what I hear as well.
That's really fun, and it's great for people that want to visit your restaurant. They can stay overnight. They can go to a bunch of different places and explore. A lot of people haven't been to wineries ever in their lives. And right, it's a neat experience because a lot of wineries make money, so they're kind of not opulent, but they're really neat looking. They're architecturally interesting.
Right, and they're these guys here are doing a lot of different things. So there's a lot of you'll have something relatively simple, and but then you'll see something very, I don't know, there are a lot of money that has gone into these places, because it's not just about the tasting and the wine. A lot of them are wedding venues with large banquet rooms with great outdoor spaces for photography. And I mean, this is an Instagram town. This town is built for Instagram.
Well, I saw some of the Christmas stuff and I'm like, oh, that looks like what you'd want like to move to Christmas Town or something like that.
Right. Well, I call Fredericksburg the living Hallmark card.
Okay.
The whole town is just unreal.
Oh, that's so cool. Let's just take a dive back for people that don't know your background. What did you start out, and then how long and you and Boo have been married for how long? How many years?
We've been married for 17 years.
17 years.
Been together for 21.
Did you meet in the Houston area?
We met actually in San Antonio.
Okay.
I was working previous IT. I was 20 years. I was an IT small business consultant, and my wife was getting her second bachelor's and was going into fashion. Okay. So she had a bachelor's in Korea, and then she worked there for a while and decided doing visual merchandising that I don't want to do that. I want to do design. So I met her while she was going to school and trapped her and kept her here.
In San Antonio.
Right. And then her job, we were actually interviewing in New York when she got an offer from Houston. So I was quite excited about that. I wasn't looking forward to moving to New York or San Francisco.
You could have ended up in and San Francisco too is mayhem, especially now.
Right. So luckily we ended up in Houston, and we were there for 17 years. Pretty much the length of our marriage up until this last year.
And were you going to barbecue places? Is that what sparked it? What made you make the leap? And then I know that she gave you an ultimatum, from what I've read from Daniel's article too.
Right. Well, we so I tend to be obsessive about things, my hobbies, and home brewing was a big thing for me. We had a little brew club in our neighborhood, and I actually got approached by someone to put together a business plan, open a brewery. But I knew that intellectually, I had a cap. I'm not a chemist, and I knew where it was going, and I wasn't going to be capable of doing it. But I started barbecuing in the backyard. It ended up being like a Christmas thing. So if you look at all my Christmas pictures, I either look drunk or while the kids are opening gifts. But I've just been all up all night tending a brisket. And then my first kind of aha, I had a few friends that had kind of encouraged me, maybe you should do this. At the time, I was terrible at it. I mean, just horrific. But better than some of the local spots, I guess. But we went to. I'm trying to remember the name of the event. It was because they didn't do it again, but Chris Reed, Michael Fulmer put on an event at St. Arnold's called, I think it was the Eaker Barbecue Backyard, or I think that was their first. I don't know if the festival came after or before, but this was kind of an introduction to kind of what they would actually do with the throwdowns, maybe. So Ronnie Killen was there, La Barbecue was there. So La Barbecue was serving inside, and Killen's was serving outside, and it was basically a tasting. You paid a fee, you came in, you got quote unquote unlimited beer and each. I'm gonna say this wrong because I'm pretty sure it was John Lewis was with La Barbecue at the time. Are we getting the name right?
Yeah, they could. Oh yeah, the name's right, John Lewis.
Yeah. So John Lewis was there.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it would be around that time. Yeah.
Right, and he had a beef rib, and that beef rib kind of changed my perception of barbecue.
Interesting.
We hadn't hit a lot of the spot. I hadn't been anywhere of any note. This was the first time that I had anything of a true craft, and it just really stuck out to me. And so I started cooking a little bit more, and then next thing you know, it's becoming a every other weekend thing, and just decided that I was kind of tired. I'd kind of put myself out to pasture. I'd moved from one firm to another, and I basically put myself into a role where I was going to be stuck in the office. I was not doing consulting anymore. I was doing more HR recruiting and that sort of thing. And I was done. I was sucking
your soul, probably.
Yeah, I was just my passion for IT had been long gone, and I was ready for something else. And we decided that at some point that I was going to make the jump, and so we started buying pits and started playing around a little bit more. Eventually bought Grant Pinkerton's first trailer pit. Was my first trailer pit.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And interesting. It was kind of cool. It looked like a red wagon. It was this trailer that some welding class in one of the little towns had built, and he had bought it from the guy who'd had it built. And it was, it worked, but I remember him telling me, if you ever want to master a pit, master a fire, you're going to do it on this one, and everything else will be easy. And it was. I mean, he literally sat, and I'd have my foot sitting on the door, and I'd back it off and let it close, back it off, let it close.
Really?
I can literally dial the temperature in that quickly. So, but I'd have to sit there and watch it. There was no running in for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, taking a quick nap. He was literally sitting in front of the pit.
And it wasn't an enclosed pit. It was a trailer, just a regular trailer pit.
It was semi-enclosed. So it had like a vinyl. Was it vinyl? I think it was a vinyl cover. Yes, it was a vinyl cover on top. It opened up like wings. It had a sink, a small sink and all that, but I never used any. I used it just for the pit. When I bought it, I measured everything out, and I thought I was going to be able to back it into my between the fence and my garage, and I missed my measurements by 2 inches. I didn't take into account the gutters, and then HOA people started complaining about the pit in the middle of the street. Of
course.
So we ended up selling that and then buying a close. I had a close build.
Okay. And how are those pits?
I like that. It was a lot better than what I had worked with in the past. My issues were I ended up spending money on tuning plates, and I ended up ripping those out. They ended up, you would end up getting that kind of bottom sear on the briskets, and then I was burning through a lot of wood. So I pulled those out, and then it cooked better. And I had hoped that the stacks should have been taller to produce a little more draw. But at the time,
I've heard of modification. People have done modifications on those. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, at the time, this was the best piece of equipment that I'd used, and I didn't know that it needed a taller stack. Like up until so we ended up. I bought that one actually just before I ordered that one, and I picked up a Pitmaker vault. I don't know if you're aware of those, but it's like a.
I've seen those.
Yeah, it's like looks like a big vault, and you got the firebox underneath. And then the way the heat comes up over the top on the sides, so it's not a heat from the bottom, even though the fire's under there, but it comes around and creates kind of a convection.
Yeah, there's a guy out here who has one of those for a red place.
Yeah, I mean they're great for ribs, great for small meats, and then so when we eventually bought the food truck and I ended up leaving my job, we used the close to do all my brisket and pork shoulder, and then the vault for my ribs and sausage and turkey and all that.
Wow. And that at that time when you decided to make the leap, was she behind it, and was that something were you nervous, like thinking like this is and it was right, it was before COVID, right? And then
it was we left. I should know my years by now. We established the business in 2016, the LLC. Started buying equipment, and then this was late. I guess it was late 2017 that I made the move. We had talked about it. We have a little bit of a revisionist history between the two of us. She says that she wasn't ready to do it, but we were in agreement. So she'll tell you otherwise. But we had made. I don't think she would. She says that she wasn't ready to make that decision that quickly, but we had decided that we were going to make it to the end of the year, and I ended up pulling out in October. Unfortunately, the plan was the math had played well, where we could, if we got really, really lean, we can live off her salary. 2 weeks after I put my 90-day notice in, she got laid off.
Okay. I read that too. Yeah, that's
two kids.
Murphy's Law.
Right. We have 2 kids in the house. We're living in a house that 2 very, very good professional salaries we're paying for to a food truck. It ended up turning out, there's some things that ended up playing out well. My brother-in-law ended up moving here and buying a restaurant, but with the way, he bought a Korean restaurant, and the way the investment visas work is he bought it and he had to go back to Korea for 3 months. So he literally has a restaurant setting that he can't do anything well. So my wife actually opened a restaurant with no restaurant experience whatsoever.
What a weird thing that they make you do, but it makes sense because I know in other foreign countries it's a weird thing if you buy a business. It's interesting.
Right.
Okay. So she had to jump in with no experience.
With no experience, so she got them through the health department checks and got them opened and worked with. It was an existing Korean restaurant, so they kind of left things alone until he got back and he started changing the recipes. But it gave her a little bit of experience, 2 or 3 months of experience that she could end up playing into later. So
what type was it? Was it just a basic Korean restaurant, or did it have any barbecue component?
It was a full service restaurant with, I mean, a full menu, including barbecue, including bibimbap and bowls and everything.
Just awesome. Soups. Yeah, that's just so good.
Yeah, it's just a huge menu that it was a little too much for him, and then we decided, all right, well, I guess we tried to decide what we're gonna do. I was like, I guess we're gonna order a food truck. So we started looking at food trucks, and I couldn't find anything in our budget. We had about $25,000 in cash that we were going to put into a truck. Couldn't find anything that looked like it was going to survive. I had a neighbor who I didn't know. I knew of his business. He ran Oh My Gogi. He has, I think he's up to 5 or 6 trucks now in the Houston area. But we had a mutual friend, and it turns out he lived really close. And he kind of gave me some advice. You need to buy new. You don't, if you don't know how to work on a truck, you don't have restaurant experience, you need to have something that is not going to be a problem for you.
Yeah.
So that $25,000 ended up being a down payment on a $120,000 food truck.
Wow.
So
I bet that blows a lot of people's minds that they don't realize $120,000 for a food truck. That's
right. I mean, if you're gonna get
right.
if you're gonna get a really quality build, that's what they cost. That same truck now is $150,000.
I can see, yeah.
But it was all high-end equipment. It was it's one of the best builders in the country who happened to be in Houston, and so it was a good move. It just kind of it did hinder us from a financial standpoint of having to make that monthly payment every month. But it also, if it wasn't for that truck, I don't think we would have gotten into the Texans so easily. Within 3 months, we got approached to do a catering for the front office. And part of it is they had seen the truck and they saw how clean it was. And, we had, I wanted to kind of have a barbecue feel, like you're walking through the line. So I had the builder build 2 large windows. So basically the full run of it, he hated it. He didn't want to do it. But it kind of had that feel. But you look up and you just see light, and you see clean stainless steel. And when we ended up starting in our neighborhood, we'd have some people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who'd never been to a food truck. But when they saw how clean it was, they felt comfortable coming to the truck. And so we ended up being a lot of these people's first food truck experience.
Well, because a lot of people looked at the old, I guess, quote unquote, roach coaches or whatever. Like that was something that it was a white truck that was kind of dirty, and who knew what was going on in there. It was almost like a glorified ice cream truck that was a little bit larger. So yeah, so that I think a lot of people still even haven't ever eaten out of a food truck.
Right. Next thing you know, we're food truckers, and we didn't know where to go. We didn't know how to get into all these spots. So we leased a spot in a parking lot of a Jewish grocery store.
Interesting.
3 miles from our house. And then we figured, all right, well, we're just getting started. We have a lot of friends in the neighborhood. We have both of our kids are going into local schools. So we felt that we had somewhat of a built-in audience that we can feed off of. No pun intended. But we did okay with it there. And it's when we really started to do well is when we started to venture out and start doing, large corporate offices, serving lunches there. That's kind of determined our lunch schedule. And then evenings we did some apartments, but most of it was bars, big bars. We ended up getting into Kirby Ice House and Truck Yard, which are the 2 largest bars in the city. Truck Yard has a occupancy of over 900, and on Saturday they had first in, first out. Like it was one in, one out. It was that busy.
I remember when I was working on with Abe Delgado, when we were working on those lists of pop-ups. Your pop-ups, you were hustling. You had many different places. Okay, now it's all coming back.
Right, and it sounds like that we were just really hard workers, but no, we didn't have a choice. Yeah. We had to make money. We had, and so we were everywhere. I think at one point we got our staff up to 5 or 6, not including me and my wife, and we had it running almost 7 days a week.
Yeah, I remember it was almost every day. Yes.
Yeah, it was and you think restaurants a lot of work.
How was that?
It was rough. Like the food truck is so rough. You got to do all your cooking prior, and then then you have to take everything, load the truck, and then your truck has to go to a commissary, which is required to get a slip so you can dump your water, get fresh water, and then you drive to your location. You have to set everything up, serve for usually about 3 hours, break everything down again, and then on most days you'd be going to another location. And then if you're doing any of these large venues like Carbach or Truck Yard, if there's a very busy day, you don't have enough supply in the truck. You don't have enough room in the truck to be able to service them. I think we had one shift where we went through 9 or 10 boxes of fries, and those boxes are 30 pounds each, 35 pounds each. So we ended up renting a warehouse space from another food truck where we had some refrigeration, and it was a lot of coordination, a lot of
be on your toes. You can't.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're busier than you expect, and then all of a sudden you got to create protein, because they're coming to a barbecue truck. They don't want fries. They want like some meat. So you're rushing back. You're firing. You're hoping you still have some heat in your in the pit, and you're throwing sausage on. You're throwing anything quick that you can get cooked and produce. So it was fun. I mean, it was fun and it was terrible at the same time.
But it's like there's some sort of excitement about that. There's it's like like trailblazing kind of, and it's
right. But after about 2 years, you're about done with all that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
So
the fact that 2 years ago, that's a lot. Yeah, a lot of people won't make it that long.
We actually had a shift that ran 24 hours. So I was cooking twice a week. There was no way that I was going to be able to do briskets every day. I had to drive the truck. So I ended up hiring Justin. Justin came in, he cooked for me twice a week, and then we would hold for the next day, and then everything else got vacuum sealed, put away, and then reheated. But we got really good at reheating, and a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell. But then
most people wouldn't.
Right, but ribs, some people that you would think that would be able to tell couldn't tell. Done right, but it was a necessary evil. But we did ribs and turkey and sausage were all done that day. It was just so much planning and tactical maneuvering, but we had to do it. And when COVID hit, just before COVID hit, actually, my wife said, we had originally said this is a 2 or 3 year run. We don't know anything about hospitality. Let's do the food truck so we can learn it before we open a restaurant. And it turned out to be the best thing to do. One, we built a brand over time, where we moved around, and my logo's everywhere in town. And then, but more importantly, we would have opened our location in the wrong place. We would open in our neighborhood, and we would have failed inside of a year.
Because there was too many other places, or it wasn't the right area.
It just all the things,
okay.
Right? We didn't have any craft barbecue in the close area. Of course, Blood Brother, literally right after I think it was right after I put in my notice, or right before I put in my notice, Blood Brothers announced that they were opening in Bel Air, which is 10 minutes from my house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Because I planned on opening in the area. But other than, they had Blood Brothers was there. I mean, we had a little bit different cuisine, so it would have been fine, but just the neighborhood, we just found out wouldn't be able to support it.
I think even wasn't Regal's kind of looking at Bel Air at one point for their second location, possibly?
I'm not sure.
I forget.
Since I've known him, he's always been looking in the west area, like Eldridge, and on the other side, got to do my direction, I guess the south side of I-10. He looked over in that Memorial area. When we first started talking about it, that's what he was looking at. Yeah. He may have. I mean, Bel Air was definitely a place where they had 3 barbecue joints there, but someone that could come in and do something great would do well there. And as we can see, Blood Brothers is doing very well there.
Very well, yeah.
So yeah, we
to show the ultimatum was there.
Well, she was to the point. So we're still doing all of our sides, right? If you're running a food truck, you want to limit your items to about 5 or 6 items. We're running full menu. I had 5 or 6 proteins. We had 4 sides, and then on top of that, fries and loaded fries and desserts. So the idea was that we didn't want to build our brand as a sandwich truck, and then all of a sudden we're craft barbecue.
Yeah.
Like we knew that we needed to build our reputation on our food offerings, so it made that transition into restaurant easier.
And were you including the Korean element at that time too?
After we moved to the Gochujang rib, probably halfway through our food truck.
Okay.
We had done that. We did the gochujang ribs at it was at Super Beef with Eddie O and I can't remember. How do I not remember his name?
Jacob? No. Was it?
No, it was the event was Wayne Miller.
Wayne Miller. Okay.
Yeah. So Louis Miller's was their base. Our whole concept was.
Oh, that's that small place up in Taylor, right?
Yeah. Some people might know where it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was supposed to be, old school and young guns, right? And they changed it. This was the 5th or 6th time they've done it. And they changed it to Young Guns for some reason. I'm guessing because I was not young, but they called it Open Comers. But that was the first time we did. I think that's the first time we did the gochujang.
Okay. Yeah. We'll get it. We'll jump to your menu at near the end, so people can understand. But yeah, I just was curious if you were sort of starting to spice things up, starting to put a little bit of Korean into it. Okay.
Yeah, about a year and a half in, we started adding some of those Korean elements, like the kimchi fried rice and the gochujang ribs. So the beginning of the year, Boo said, like, I'm done. Like, we have 1 year left. We're either in a restaurant or we're getting jobs. Like, I just can't do this anymore. She's doing all these side prep at home. Like, we're making potato salad, beans, all of this stuff has been made from scratch. Yeah. And again, more coordination. So I was like, all right, well, I had no plan. I didn't know what we're going to do. And we started the year off with a bang where this was going to be a record year for us. March was one of our best months, or looking to be one of the best months we ever had. And then boom, COVID hits. And literally right before we were supposed to do 2 events at the rodeo, we had our second best day ever at Carbach that Sunday before. And we were coming back that Saturday for a huge concert. So we were looking to do a record month in March. We had planned to do, I think we're going to blow our record by like 20-25% in that 1 month.
That's crazy.
And we had caterings booked out. It was looking to be a really good year. So we'd be able to be in a financial position to make some moves possibly. But then COVID hit and
everything dried up.
We're not going anywhere, right? So we ended up we literally closed, I think, maybe a week, and we were like, we don't have a choice. We have to open. So we ended up, we had gone to our neighborhood church. It's literally, if you're standing in my front door, you can see the parking lot. You can see my truck. Okay. We had just done an event there with another truck, and the pastor had said, hey, don't call me. You don't need to text me. Just show up. If anytime you want, just come out. We're not going to charge you anything.
Oh, that's nice.
We just want, we look for it one, if it helps you out, great. 2, we want more of a sense of community in here and have the neighbors come and have a spot to meet each other and chat. And it ended up being one of the greatest things. So we refer to that first 2 years of our food truck life as boot camp. And what the last year turned out to be is special forces training. Like we learned to get creative. We learned to do a lot, because we had people come in the truck twice a week when we were open 4 days. And I know they liked our food, but they didn't like it that much to eat barbecue twice a week. So they were supporting us, when we knew it. And we needed to do something to continue to encourage it, and 2, to make them feel enjoy it a little bit more. So we started doing specials. We started doing smoked burgers. My wife does a chicken fried steak with a brisket tallow gravy. We did a hot Korean chicken sandwich. We did some collabs with Chef Evelyn and did a Thai burger on our burger night. We started doing all these little different things that later would become our menu for the evening here. So fast forward, we're looking at opening up end of February, early March on Friday and Saturday nights, and we'll shift from barbecue. We'll still do barbecue to sell out for lunch, but then we'll start offering these other, what we call barbecue inspired comfort foods.
You're saying this year, like this is the for real stuff. Like this is for coming up.
Yeah, this is like within the next month and a half.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wait, quick, going back. Were people buying in bulk or buying more at that time? Like, were you guys part of that wave where people were buying things?
Right. When you're serving in a bar, it's usually one plate, two plate.
Yeah.
When you're serving in a neighborhood, it is usually family orders. So,
Yeah.
poundage orders. So our average ticket doubled, but our quantity of tickets were,
Yeah.
reduced like, 25, 75%. But yeah, we did get some, a Russell Regal hooked us up with a catering with one of the hospitals, and there was some sort of donation thing going on where they were bringing in food for the hospital staff and the nurses and the doctors. And he had done a few of them, and he wanted to spread the love, so he gave us one of them. And
That's so
I
nice.
think it was like we delivered food for like can't remember. It's like over 200 people.
Yeah.
So we did get a few. We did get a little of that, maybe not as much as some of the larger restaurants, but we did. Our average ticket did go up quite a bit.
It was during that time then, as things progressed, that you talked to JC and that you were kind of starting to look in a different place for a brick and mortar.
Yeah, well, we had taken a vacation into the Hill Country, and a week before, we had saw that New Braunfels Smokehouse had shut down, and so we decided to make a trip as we're going up there to stop and look at it. And we really considered it. We thought we had an investor and that was willing to buy the property. Oil and gas. Turns out he did not want to make that investment at that time. And we had friends that lived there that had one of them worked for the city, so he was able to get us some information, and we really considered doing it. And then I sent a text to Chris, and I said, hey, if you're going to open a barbecue restaurant in the Hill Country, where would you go? And he said Fredericksburg, and I said, what about New Braunfels? And it's like, his response was, yeah, that would work, or something to that effect. But I read it in text as I was reading his inflection. He was like, yeah, but Fredericksburg. Talked to him later. He's like, yeah, you got the inflection right in text. Good job. So
that's funny. The nuance isn't always there. Yes.
Right. But so next thing you know, we're here looking at it. We're here every weekend, every other weekend. And at one point we had no prospects for a place to live. We had no prospects for a location. But I'd already sold the house. We're moving. We were in a 45-day. We had a 45-day lease back. We figured this town is booming. If nothing else, we'll
live there
and get jobs.
Yeah.
Get jobs and figure it out. But I mean, it was to the point where we were somehow forced into it. I mean, I'd been on a forbearance plan on my house, and because we weren't making any money, we weren't able to pay our mortgage. So I had to sell my house. And so we did it, and we were like, all right, well, this is the move we need to make. And by the time we moved, we had a friend that used to be a next door neighbor. She'd gotten married, and her husband had a ranch in, they lived in Kerrville. So I called her because we couldn't find a place to live. And if she knew anyone leasing houses, and she said, I sure don't, but honey, for a pulled pork sandwich once in a while, I got 1,000 square foot with your name on it. We ended up in their guest house on their ranch, a 1,000 square foot house. So me, my wife, the two boys, my mother-in-law, and a dog. And it was a tremendous experience. We loved it. The kids enjoyed it. It was a great introduction to the Hill Country, and it gave us some time to settle in and find a place here of our own, and save
that's
money.
Kind of cool. That's kind of neat for them too, for your kids to have it's a unique experience through their life what they've had.
Oh, and then a week after we moved, the big winter storm came through. So there was snow everywhere. We were trapped in, but they loved. I mean, it was great. Yeah. I didn't have to take a shower for like 3 days.
So win-win.
Yeah, it was a great adventure. I mean, everybody was happy. It would be something that we'll never forget.
So your location that's not the New Braunfels Smokehouse, is it, or is it?
No. New Braunfels was in New Braunfels, but we started looking in Fredericksburg. Okay. And we had decided that we just wanted to move here. And
so what was your location? What was it? What kind of restaurant was it before?
It wasn't truly a restaurant, so there was no kitchen in it. There was a dish room, basically 3-compartment sink, a dishwasher, ice machine, but it was a square box. It had been a kind of a high-end, locally grown, all bread made sandwich shop. Oh, okay. But he opened literally a month before COVID hit, and so he was shut down very quickly. Yeah. His pricing was challenging at the time. He had some issues going in that weren't going to look good for him. So it sat dormant for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months before we got in here.
And once you got in, how long did it take to retool it?
So we took over the lease end of January or February, beginning of February. We had hoped to open in April. The winter storm set everything back a month. Luckily, and we can get into the Syntex thing in a little bit, but we were very fortunate there. We had actually expected delivery in February, but that pushed back a month. But it didn't matter; everything else was pushed back. We had hoped to open in April, and we ended up opening in June.
April of
the same year.
Oh, the same year, 2020.
Right? Yeah, 2020, 2021.
Yeah, because I guess that's why.
Yeah, we've only
time.
We've only
I don't
been open,
know.
Yeah, we've only been open for 7 months.
Yeah.
It feels like 10 years.
Yeah, it does.
It's only been like 7 months.
I thought it was 2020 for some reason. Gosh, okay. So with that, did you have in mind? Did you talk to Michael at Syntex? Is that something that you knew that you wanted to get a?
So when we looked at this property we had seen it before, but it was for sale and not for lease. And we had to get really creative to get in front of the landlord. Like, we didn't know his name. The realtor said that we'd have him call. He wouldn't call. But finally we got in front of him, and that was it. He loved us, and he wanted us to take over the place. He was speaking to another restaurant at the time. So we were of the belief that we were probably going to do this. And we were just waiting on to work out the terms and whatnot. And we had brought the family down for that trip. Well, we went back and we saw John Brotherton at Liberty. And we're sitting in this pit room, him, me, and Bill Dumas and my wife. And I said, I think we're going to pull the trigger on this place, but I can't get a pit. I've been looking for a pit since December, and everyone is 8 to 18 months out.
Yeah.
And I'd reached out to Moberg, Millscale, Austin Smokeworks, Backline, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. And I hadn't heard of Syntex yet. And he goes, well, have you heard of this company called Syntex? I hear they're making some amazing pits. He just did 2 for Ronnie and his Woodlands location. And he said, you need to go see him and chat with him. And so at that point, I reached out to Michael and started that kind of quoting process, but reached out to Ronnie, and Ronnie drove from Pearland over to the Woodlands and spent 2 hours with us talking pits and the restaurant industry and all. I mean, the guy could buy and sell me 3 times a week, but but he definitely has a passion for barbecue, and he definitely loves sharing, and he was hugely helpful, and he was in love with the pits. I mean, he loved everything about it. So he had pit 1 and 4, I believe, from Michael. So he literally had his first pit. And so I reached out. I told him, I was like,
so I think Mo Cason had somewhere in the middle of that, right?
He was in the middle or just after. I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll ask Michael. He probably won't remember either. I made him count pits to tell me what pit number mine was, and then I made him do it again on the second one. He's like, "You're killing me. I don't remember."
He's like, "I just build pits," and that's how he is. It's just like I'm just focused on my dad.
Yeah, I'm just trying to knock these pits out. Like, I don't have time to count how many pits I made. So mine ended up being number 12, by the way.
Okay.
And then Miss Faith is number 23. So
wow, nice. That makes me happy.
Yeah. So we I reached out to him, and he said, are you serious? Like, put down deposit serious? I was like, yeah. And he said, all right, well, I had someone in South Korea, ironically, that had been on me to build a pit, but he'd never made a deposit. His slot was coming up, and he ghosted him. Like he stopped responding. And he said, look, I can move everyone up on that list, or I can let you have that spot. And I said, I want that spot.
Wow, that's like really interesting that it would be that. That's great.
It was. We were very fortunate. I mean, I'm nobody. I'm not a Ronnie Killen. I'm not a Mo Kassan. I'm not I'm not Truth reaching out to get a pit. I'm a nobody. So I know he didn't pull some strings for me because, I'm nobody.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like maybe John had said something to him. I don't know. But both of them deny it. But there was a slot, and I took it. And I had our whole build out was, I ended up having to bring guys from Houston to do the work. A friend of mine GC'd it. Because you just can't get work here. They're too busy building B&Bs and wineries. Everything. Get an electrician out for any type of work.
And probably home builders and everything.
Yep. So we did everything built it around the delivery of the pit, because then we bring the guys down, get the pit installed, build the pit room walls up, and which I think you can kind of see.
Yeah, no, I can see like you can see the pit room. That looks beautiful. And then do you build it?
Thank you.
Did you build it for 2 1000s? Is that what you were planning on? Or?
Well, it like everything, just this place just kind of fell into our lap. It is, everything about it is perfect. We've got seating outside right now, I think at 60 or 70.
Cool.
We can do about 50, 60 inside. And then in the back, when we open that up, we'll be able to, we'll probably initially set it up to do maybe 60 or 70, but we have potential to do up to 200 back there. It's a big lot.
And with the lights and stuff, it looks gorgeous.
Right. And then there's this, there's this back area, you walk out and it literally was perfect. Like when my GC Curtis came and looked at this, these windows weren't there. That door wasn't there. It was just, there was a door, but there was no window. So when he's coming, he wasn't going to GC it. He was just like helping me out, like letting me know if there's any gotchas in there that would keep me from pulling the trigger on the lease. And he walked outside, his eyes got this big around. Both me and my wife saw him, like, holy crap. He's like, you need to get your liquor license now. Like, don't be even before you sign the lease. And there's a space that's covered that is like, it's for a pit room. It ended up in the previous, so it was a sheet metal shop. It was built for a sheet metal shop at one point. So there's an old house up front, then they built the L off the back of it. They come back a little bit and they came across, and we're in a section of that. And I guess that back area is where they stored stuff. They had loading and receiving on the other side. And there was a bar that had been here previous that used this as their stage. And I threw those pits up there, and now it's Miss Lucky and Faye stage.
Yeah.
And with the way they fit, I mean, you might be able to see both of the.
I could see that. We could see the one, and you could also see that the roof is that it's sheet metal, right?
Right, but there's literally 4.5, 5 feet in between the pits.
Oh yeah, I saw that
video
that you did that you were talking about firing up the new one. You could see that there's space. There's a good amount.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a table on order, and I'm going to do a table where I can move back and forth between the two, but there's plenty of room, and it's like it was made for it. And I'm a little bit more space over here that I can start putting wood. I can literally put 3 or 4 cords of wood off to the side over here. And it's covered. It's
like all kind of that's
right. A little challenge to deliver, but it works.
So then when you open up there, what was the reaction? And then what was it like finding out about the Texas Monthly Top 50? Because that must have been
that was
because like there's certain people that are like are ready, and there's others that are like, wait a second.
Well, we weren't. Well, we'll start with the opening. So we expected to be Central Texas barbecue, like craft barbecue, the only craft barbecue spot in town. That's what we expected to be. We didn't expect the Korean stuff to really take off, but we threw it on the menu. So I brought my dry rub rib back because we've been doing gochujang ribs as our rib for the last 1.5 years or so. And we brought my dry rub back, and we did the gochujang rib, and I think we did kimchi fried rice, and it took off. To our shock, it took off. Our number 2 item on the menu is our gochujang ribs.
Crazy. Can you explain to people what gochujang is?
Gochujang is a chili paste. It's a chili made paste, and then we take it and we turn it into a sauce. Mm-hmm. So the traditional way of making a gochujang rib was my brother, when he was looking for his restaurant, said one day, let's make some gochujang ribs. I was like, what are those? He said, just go give me some ribs and fire up the pit. And so the traditional way to do it, marinate it, and then you grill it, and then you're mopping through the grilling process. And we eventually did it on the pit maker, mopping it. That was a disaster because it just made a mess. You're opening the door every 15 minutes and you're letting your heat out. But he suggested, why don't we do this? Let's marinate, smoke, and then we'll sauce them and torch them after. And that ended up becoming our gochujang ribs. Mm-hmm. So they're smoked instead of grilled. So there's a little more smoke penetration, a little more smoke flavor than you would get in a traditional rib. But other than that, it's a very traditional gochujang.
So that's your number 2 selling protein?
Number 2 selling item, period. And number 1 side is probably our mac and cheese, which is insane. But all the Korean sides fall underneath it. I mean, I think we sell more kimchi fried rice than we do beans and potatoes. Wow.
Do you think it's because there's people in the area that are, I don't like the word foodies, but like, there's probably a lot of restaurants, chef chef-minded people and people that have
Well,
maybe have
yes,
not a
so
different palate, but they, I don't know.
yeah, yes, and yes. There's like there's several reasons for it. One of the concerns about moving is we just spent 3 years building a brand in Houston. Well, about half the tourists in Fredericksburg are from Houston.
Oh,
So we literally have, there's a gentleman here that his son was a customer of mine when we were in the neighborhood. Leonard Bench, and his son lived in our neighborhood, and he said, "Hey, you need to go check out this place."
oh,
So
that's
he was
funny.
coming by and checking us out as we're building it. We have friends that I had a colleague that ended up buying a place here and using a B&B, and he bought it right about the time that we moved. So there's a big Houston connection.
Okay.
So that helps. And Houston being, not very well known, but it's a pretty big foodie town. And it's has some of the most, I would say it's 2 or 3 as far as food goes in the country, especially for variety and quality, with all the different influences of Vietnamese culture and
so much.
everything else, right? So we had that. And then we had a lot of guys that, served in Korea, like maybe not during the war, obviously, but they had, when they're in the military, they spent some time in Korea and they had gotten a taste for it, or they were in oil and gas and spent time there, or whatever. And then there's a foodie element. There's been a want for more craft foodie driven food here. You have some of it, but a lot of it is tourist directed, where it may not be, there may be a little more pre-canned Cisco stuff going on than in-house made sides, right? So
and it balances with the like the vinegar base, like the different flavors too, and the spices. They balance the richness of craft barbecue. It makes all the sense.
Especially kimchi. Kimchi is it's to aid digestion, so it goes very well with brisket or any other kind of fatty meat. And gochujang is meant for pork, and it handles smoke very well. It complements it very well. So we had done a lot of this at home. I mean, when we started the restaurant, or when we started the food truck, leftover brisket ended up being kimchi fried rice. Leftover pulled pork would end up going into ramen. Those kind of things. So we unknowingly were somewhat building a menu long when we started because we just had to find something to do with our extra food.
But did people gravitate to your restaurant at the beginning?
Well, at first when we opened, we did have a line out the door. We slowly ramped up. We weren't doing the kind of revenue that we were doing on the food truck right away. But we could feel the build every week. It was got a little bit better. And then Daniel Vaughn came out 2 months in. So at our time, we were under the impression that we weren't even going to be in consideration. We're open way too late.
Yeah, that's
we're in the new 25. That's what we're thinking. So he shows up one day, and it was on a day that they actually closed the streets for a parade. So, and I didn't, in the past, they didn't close our street because the parade literally turned the street just to the side of us. Okay. But for whatever reason, on this parade, even though it turned there, they decided to close it up the street and block it. So luckily, because I know that was a pet peeve of his, luckily I had posted something to let them know that we are open, that you'll need to park down the street and come in. So and it just luck we have it that he happened to be here and he saw the post and knew he had to walk up. So
wasn't he first in line that day?
He was. I mean, he was sitting outside. I was walking outside to grab the flag, and he was sitting there. I was like, "Hey, how are you doing, sir?" And I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
It's like, that guy.
So like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He's wearing what was it? I can't remember. It's not a Vietnamese. It's a bowl place. And that has a barbecue fusion in San Antonio, and for whatever reason, it kind of evades my mind, but it was a pink shirt, something boys, Curry Boys. Yeah, so he's wearing a Curry Boys shirt, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" So we didn't, we're just about to open, so we didn't have a lot of time to talk. Someone comes in line behind him, and then we get really busy. We expected to be closed that day. In fact, or slow. In fact, we were told that we should consider closing because there was a big parade. They were going to have food at the market plots, and turns out it's one of our busier days. So we're nuts. I didn't have time to go out and chat with him. finally I broke off the board and went out and chatted with him. He's like, well, I got to run. I had a quick conversation. I'll call you and we'll talk about for the article. And so I'm under the impression this is just for an article, right? I didn't know that we were getting considered. I talked to John Brotherton. It's like, yeah, he doesn't have time for that. He's looking at the article. I was like, hey, he's looking, you're being considered. And I'm like, why would you put that in my head? That's cruel. That is straight up cruel. Like one, I don't know that he's really doing it. Two, if he was, I still might not have made it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he came out, and that Monday, I get an email to have a phone call with a staffer for a fact-checking article. So we call him, and we're chatting for a little bit, and it turns out he was here the month before. So we had already had a visitor. So we had that initial staffer.
Oh, that staffer was out the month before. Okay.
The staffer had come and eaten here, and I guess we were good enough to consider for Daniel coming. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is strange. Like, and at that point, I didn't know that I didn't know that process, right? I didn't know this staffer. I just thought it was interesting. And
you also didn't know that you fell into the criteria that could actually be in the top 50 because of time.
Correct. Correct. And it wasn't made clear to me that we had a shot. Right after Daniel left, I get a text from Chris Reed saying, hey, we're going to be there tomorrow. We're coming into Austin. We're going to make a drive down and come eat. I'm like, all right. I was like, that's kind of odd timing. So he shows up, and I have time to talk with him. He gets here before we open. So we talk through my plans with the restaurant and everything. And he goes down. He comes in, gets his food. They go sit down. And we finally get a break in the line. He came on a Saturday, so we have more staff. So my wife could slide in on board, and they can still handle business. We usually have one person that can pop out and clean tables. So I was able to get away and go chat with them. And he looks at me and goes, you have a real chance, right? And I was like, at what? It's like, at the top 50. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, we were open too late. I'm serious. You have a real shot at it. And he said, the food is great. Your location is great. You've got a shot. And I'm like, somebody's just being mean to me. It's like, because it
was like the third cruel joke.
Right. So, and
I forgot that Chris he's part of the process too.
He is, but this is not his area. Yeah. So, I mean, it may have been purely coincidence that him and Mark were in Austin, and they were checking out a few joints, but and then he thought, let's head down there. But and so now I'm gut wrenching, and I'm not sleeping because this is everything. This could change our business.
Oh yeah.
Well, then the article came out, and that week, just the article, not the top 50, the article, online article, not even in the magazine, our business increased 40%, and we held it for a month.
Wow.
And then
that's interesting.
The article came, or then the top 50 came out. That week, we doubled our revenue. And we have been building on it ever since.
Crazy.
Like 5%, 10%. So best month we ever had was October. It even beat a month where we had a steady pop up at Truck Yard. We had the food truck running we did, I think, 2 different Texans games. I had the largest catering we'd ever done in that month. We beat it by a few $100s in that October.
Oh my gosh.
And in November, we beat October. In December, 3 weeks in, I had already beat November. But then we got sick, and I had to, we closed for the week, and I had to refund some pre-orders, and I ended up shortening it by $200. Hey. So yeah, things are.
I mean, it's not hey that you were sick. That's not good that you were sick, but it is like, that's amazing. And then have you opened since, or tomorrow's your first day opening?
So this last week was a planned shutdown. Unfortunately, it couldn't wait another week, so we could be closed consecutively. But we opened up one more week. And it's supposed to be dead time here. Like January is the slowest time of year. We're told that expect 40-50% in drop. We talked to other restaurants after the fact, and that's what they had seen. We dropped 10-12%.
Wow.
So
nice.
we found a money spot, and we're far enough out that the locals will still come because they won't touch downtown, and we still will get the tourists. So we found a nice little balance. We've lucked into a nice little balance.
Wow. That's incredible. That's nice to know. And so then tomorrow is your first kind of reopening again, like you got after your little semi break. It wasn't a break, but you
Right.
brought it. But in that meantime, you brought in a second Centex pit. So now you
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of capacity. And are you
And
still going to be?
versatility.
And what's that?
And versatility. It
Sure,
gives
sure,
me a
sure.
lot of versatility. We'll be one of the problems with running 1,000-gallon pit is smoke penetration on your meat.
Yeah.
When you're doing brisket, you're just not getting enough smoke on it. So you can either run a dirty fire for a certain period of time. You can not really cold smoke it, but run it about 150, 200 degrees. But when I'm cooking for my ribs for the day, I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll run all the big proteins,
Perfect.
the brisket and the pork shoulder on one, and all the smaller meats on the other. And then it also allows me to do sausage eventually. So running one pit, I'd have to come in on Sunday or Monday to smoke sausage you need to do that at about 150 degrees. Well, that pit will free up, and after service, we'll be able to fire back up. So it gives me a lot of versatility, and we have run up the capacity twice so far. So I expected that would have been a huge problem going forward. So we did foresee it. We foresaw that one was not going to be enough. Yeah. So when I placed the order for the first one, I got on the proper list for the second one.
Smart. That's smart. So let's go over quickly. What are your hours right now, and then roughly what's your menu so people can know what to expect.
So we're open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 3 or sellout. Yeah. We're in the next month we'll be adding probably 5 to 9 on Friday and Saturday with that alternate menu. Menu consists of your traditional brisket, pulled pork. We do 2 types of sausage. Right now we're using Ruffino's refilled meat sausage, which we really like, but we're planning on moving on to our own in the next couple of months.
Okay.
I'm looking up at my menu now to remember. We do 2 pork ribs. We do a traditional dry rub, and then we do the gochujang. And then we have a pretty extensive side list, and this is all house made. So it's scratch near scratch. We run your traditional coleslaw, borracho beans, potato salad, cream corn. And then add to that, we do a mac and cheese with it's a really good mac and cheese. It's my wife did herself. And then kimchi fried rice, and then a Korean cucumber salad. And occasionally we'll add like japchae, which is like a Korean noodle that we'll do occasionally. And maybe we'll do some pork belly from time to time with some different things, gochujang or tamarind or what other sauces. So we expect to do a lot more of that going forward.
Wow. Do people order sides of kimchi, or is that something that
we have people come in and buy pints and quarts of it?
So you guys make it? Do you guys make your own kimchi?
Properly.
I love that. No, I remember going to my friend's house one time, and his wife's grandmothers and all these people, aunts, and they're all making it, and they're making it in the backyard, and it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, I mean we do it proper. It's actually both the gochujang sauce and the kimchi are fermented and actually done properly.
Love that. Oh gosh,
so
that is so cool.
It's truly authentic. It's my mother-in-law's recipe. The gochujang sauce is my brother-in-law's, who is a Korean chef. Yeah. That my wife has made some alterations and changes from.
Wow, that's crazy. And then are you going to be having live music, or is that something that you had before?
We're my idea with live music. So we have to be careful. This place was when it was a bar, it originated with the Houston noise or the Fredericksburg noise ordinance. So we got to be very careful with our neighbors. So short term, what we're thinking Saturday is bringing in someone to be on the front porch, acoustic set. Okay. So when there's a line, they can grab a beer, they can listen to some music, and it make the line not so painful.
Yeah, palatable, I guess.
Yes, they're palatable. Yeah,
that sort of fits in the whole.
No pun intended. Right?
Yeah, pun intended for sure. Gosh, you know what? I've wanted to talk to you for so long, and I've loved your spirit. It's infectious, and I love what you guys are both doing. And someday I'd like to talk to Boo as well, because I'd love to get her take on this whole story. I've wanted to go to Fredericksburg forever because I've just been curious, and I do want to move to Texas. And there's been a bunch of towns and cities that I've been interested in. Fredericksburg now, like the cost of living, it sounds like it's a little more
right
than it was. It's not, you can't buy $120,000 house, but it does sound somewhere wonderful to visit now that you're there and you're rolling. And then also too, you'll have bigger capacity, so that'll be perfect you won't be selling out as quickly as you because come spring, summer, this is going to be so much fun for you. It's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah, and this town just doesn't stop. I mean, once middle of February, we won't stop. We'll have a slowdown in August, and then it'll be crazier through Christmas, through New Year's, and then it stops again. So looking at sales tax revenue, pretty big dip in January, and then in August, a small dip in August. That last week or two as people are going back to school. Other than that, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and especially too with hopefully things getting better for other people coming from other states to feel more comfortable to travel in general. But so how far away are you from Houston, San Antonio, and Austin?
Houston 4 hours, Austin about an hour and a half, depending on where you're going to. If you're going to go to northern, it may be 2 hours. San Antonio is about an hour. Okay. Yeah, about an hour. So it's an hour to San Antonio, an hour and a half to Austin, 4 to Houston, and I guess about 4 to Dallas.
Hey, about 4,
we actually get quite a few people in from Lubbock and the Dallas area actually.
So, and it's beautiful country out there.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It is just beautiful here. It's the best move we've ever made in every single aspect of our lives. The only one upset right now is our dog because we're living in an apartment. But he really loved the ranch and be able to run around free when he was there. But other than that, our kids are happier. My wife's happier. My mother-in-law's happier. I'm happier. Every aspect of our lives has improved. So it was by far the best move we ever made.
I'm so happy for you, and it's great the way that things turned out. And thank you for sharing this story, and thank you for everything that you do, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I so appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you giving us a holler and our interest in our little bitty shop here. All the well intentions in the world, and I miss out on things because I just mentally I lose it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You have a lot of balls in the air. And you also have a life too. Like people don't realize it. Like you have all this. You have a business. You guys both have a business, but you also have a family. You have
right now. Everything revolves around
school
this. I mean, kids in school. We were able to break away and see some sports activities occasionally, but for the next year until I can get a pit hand and until we can get some more kitchen help, we're not going to be able to break away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Our rule is that only on extreme special occasions will me and her not be here. And that would be like a Troubadour Festival or a Texas Monthly or something like that. And we would consider shutting down. That's a big part of why we're successful here is people respect the fact that I'm behind the board and Boo is prepping sides and running the register, that we're the only restaurant in town that they get that experience. So they've created kind of an emotional relationship with our restaurant.
That's cool.
And I think part of it is because we're here. So we need to not forget that. And you'll look at a lot of joints that have been successful, that really successful, follow that. If you look at Corkscrew and Tejas, and they're always there. Yeah. One of them is always there. They've always got the finger on what's going on in the restaurant. And when customers come in and see them, that's an added bonus. Sometimes that's why they want to go see them. So.
And it creates that level of trust that that they care about what they're doing. Like it's
absolutely.
If you go to a place and you start not seeing the owners all the time or not at all, you're like, what's even happening here? Is this
you'll start to see slippage on the menu. The sides are not done, they're not plated right, or little things will start to occur. So plus I think people just want to see us, right? Like they want to know us. It's a small town. It's like we're becoming like a little Cheers, right?
I love that.
We need a norm. We need a norm, Boo.